Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Top of the morning to you. I can't do a great Irish accent. I'm sorry, Alon.
It's okay.
Alon to say, filling in for Stephen Langford. Of course, Stephen had to go to spring training today and miss this fun. Holy shit. Welcome, everybody, to Just Your Opinion, man. Derek Papa, Alon to say. Alon, what's going on, man? It's been a while since we've talked. You filled in for Stephen when he was going through his family troubles, but good to have you back, man.
No, it's great to be back, and just glad that some big news happened today. It's a pretty big deal, and also happy for Steven that he gets to go enjoy spring training, because listening to him talk about, going to spring training, I don't know if there's going to be spring training, that would have really sucked. What do you do? What do you do in Arizona? I mean, I guess there's other stuff to do, but what do you do if there's no spring training?
I mean, Scottsdale's a good area. You go drink, obviously.
You can do that anywhere.
Yeah, but that's the whole appeal of doing, spring training. You go to baseball in the day, then you drink at night.
Does he go in to find Rob Manfred and go shake his hand?
Or throw acid in his face?
Or do that. I mean, I know that's still a running gag, but yeah. Anyway, but
that's why I like you, sir. You listen to the podcast to get all the inside jokes. Let's get right into it, man. We were expecting all day long Deshaun Watson to be traded to some team, whether it's the Atlanta Falcons or the New Orleans Saints. That may happen. It doesn't look like it's happening tonight. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the biggest news of the day, holy shit. I was literally texting with Aram. If anyone knows Aram, good friend of ours, hooked us up back in the day at Schroeder's, all the 95.7 guys, the best. And he literally was texting me. I'll bring up the text right now. Where are you, Aram? Hold on.
Used to have some fun St. Patty's days over there, man.
Oh yeah. We had great times over there. Okay. He texted me. Any chance for a trade for Davante Adams? And I said, no chance with Rodgers. Seems like Adams trying to force his way out. I said, more like his agent is trying to make the Packers worry. He's not going anywhere. And he's like, I don't know, man. I think it's a possibility. I'm like, he's not going anywhere. Sure enough, 2 hours later, we get the news. Davante Adams has been traded for a first-round pick and a second pick to the Las Vegas Raiders, and they immediately give him the new contract. He's getting $141 million over 5 years, 28 per year, highest paid wide receiver in football, and he's reunited with his college quarterback, Derek Carr. Alon, your thoughts on this massive, massive trade?
Well, I mean, obviously, as a Raiders fan and a PSL owner, I love it. I mean, this is huge. This is the kind of things that if you were going to move to Vegas, you got to do these things. Like, imagine if they moved here, the Raiders did, and then still didn't sign big free agents and didn't pay any money. So, like, what have they done really over the past week or so? They've extended Max Crosby, like basically almost making up for the fans who are still mad about Khalil Mack. Not saying Max Crosby is Khalil Mack. He's not a two-time All-Pro at the same position, that kind of stuff. But, showing that, hey, we're going to spend the money to keep these kinds of guys. We're going to take big swings. Sometimes we're going to miss. Antonio Brown, big miss. Guys like that. But, yeah, a huge miss, a big blunder. But, I mean, Davante Adams doesn't come with all the baggage. I mean, unless you consider some guy not wanting to play under the franchise tag baggage. But,
no.
I mean, I agree. I wouldn't want to play. If I was a player, I wouldn't want to play under the franchise tag. I think it's huge. It's a big deal. I think it's amazing that really amazing that they were able to do it. And this is mostly because of cap reasons. They were able to do this and only trade away a first and a second. That I think is a huge takeaway. I think it also shows that, look, they didn't want to get left in the dust with this arms race that's going on in the AFC West.
Yep.
They go out and get Chandler Jones. They sacrifice, the talents of Yannick Ngakoue, but you're getting Chandler Jones, who is more effective in more facets of the game. There's rumors that they want to go get Tonte Hightower, but at the end of the day, with this Davante Adams deal, it's just so much money, and it's a 5-year deal. And I kind of figured it was going to happen because he had bought a mansion right next to Derek Carr in the same neighborhood a few weeks ago here in Las Vegas. Yeah, and that was in the Review Journal, and I was like, interesting. And obviously, some writers here were like, well, pump the brakes. Maybe he's buying it, and he won't be there this year, but he'll be there next year. And I'm like, I don't think you buy a house that you're not going to live in for a whole year.
Well, when you have money, you can.
When you have money, maybe you do, but it wasn't. It was already. It's a house was there. It wasn't like John Gruden who bought the land or Mark Davis who bought the land and then built it. So he bought the house, and I was just like, that dude's coming here. And Derek Carr, credit to him, who's kind of put out there through the media and through his people, like the only reason he would take a pay cut for any reason is if they got Davante Adams. Well, Derek, you're going to have to take a pay cut now. It's a huge deal.
Is he though? There's talks of him getting an extension now.
He's going to get an extension, but I don't think it's going to be at that top. You know what I'm saying?
Restructuring it.
Yeah, when I say pay cut, I mean like with regards to the other top, other big quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
But my final thoughts on it in terms of just opening here is it's a huge deal. It's a huge swing. Hopefully for the Raiders, it pays off, and it definitely shows that they're committed to not only keeping up, but definitely wanting to be the cream of the crop in not just the AFC West, but the AFC.
It is a massive, massive trade. Bigger, in my opinion, than Antonio Brown or Randy Moss. Those outcomes were terrible. I can't see this one going bad. It's Davante Adams, who is arguably the best wide receiver in football. He's not a diva. He has no issues. He knows Derek Carr from college. They're very close. This is a massive deal. And I never doubted for a second, Alon, because I knew my guy, Josh McDaniels, said it from the beginning. He's going to be a Raiders head coach, and now he's making moves, baby. I say that because you texted me the night before Josh McDaniels became head coach. You're like, dude, I think you're taking a little strong stance on him not being Raiders head coach. But him and Ziegler are making deals, man, from Chandler Jones yesterday. I saw that coming. And it's a great move, but this is that much bigger. And I'm shocked by this. I'm absolutely shocked that Green Bay, knowing that, they're stepping on eggshells with Aaron Rodgers at every second, that they trade away his favorite wide receiver. We'll talk about that a little later. But just as far as the Raider implications, you said it, Alon. This has been the craziest offseason I think I can remember. Russell Wilson gets traded to the Denver Broncos. Carson Wentz gets traded to the Washington Commanders. Khalil Mack gets traded to the Chargers. Amari Cooper gets traded to the Browns. You have all these signings. Von Miller goes to the Bills. And we're not even done yet because so much is contingent on what Deshaun Watson is going to do here in the next couple of days. So there could be massive, massive more trades. But honestly, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, but I think this is the biggest trade the Raiders have ever done. I mean, next to, getting Mike Hayes in the middle of the 1983 season, this is massive. This is the best wide receiver in football, and he's already joining a team that has Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs. I mean, this offense, if the offensive line holds up, it's going to be as good as any team in football. And I've been saying this. The Rams picked up Allen Robinson today, and who knows what's happened who knows what happens with Odell. In the NFL now, you need at least 3 good wide receivers on the field at all times if you run a 3-receiver set. But you got to have an explosive offense. You got to put up points. You got to be able to run the ball. You got to be able to play defense. If you're not a dome team, you got to be able to do those things. But to put up points in this league, you got to score with the best of them. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they're getting, I think, worse by the day. They just lost Byron Pringle to the Chicago Bears. We'll see if they get Zadarius Smith here because he backed out on the Baltimore deal. He's still a free agent, and there's rumors of him going there. They haven't added anybody offensively. We keep hearing Juju Smith-Schuster. As far as the Broncos, they really haven't added anybody offensively besides Russell Wilson. They picked up, great pass rushers and Randy Gregory and DJ Jones, not a pass rusher, but a good interior defensive lineman.
I like that Randy Gregory pick up a lot for them.
And another guy that changed his mind. And the Chargers, they have their pieces with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. But now you can make the argument on paper, the Raiders have the best offense in the AFC West. And it's funny to me that we go from one week to the other, and everyone was saying, well, the Raiders are the worst team by default. Derek Carr is the worst quarterback of the division by default. And so how quickly that changes. It still could be the case. Derek Carr is probably 4th in this division right now. But as far as the team, it's too early to say, but I think the Raiders may be the best team in the AFC West right now on paper. Now, they still have some holes here or there. They made some great moves getting Rock Ya-Sin and Chandler Jones.
Anthony Averett.
Yep, they just signed him as well. Who knows? They could still be in the mix for Stephon Gilmore. Probably not, because given how much they just paid for Davante Adams. But Alon, I think this. People forget that the Raiders were a playoff team a year ago because of all the bullshit that happened last year and changing of the coach. Um, I mean, you don't want to forget about what happened obviously a year ago, but this does kind of help cleanse the wounds of Henry Ruggs and everything. So I think this is a massive deal, and I think this quite possibly puts the Raiders in Super Bowl contention.
It definitely turns the page on everything that happened last year. Not that the events weren't important, like you were saying, Derek, but it definitely is like, okay, everything that happened between leaving Oakland and getting here, like the Gruden era, that's done. That whole thing is done. And going to what you were saying regarding who's the best team in the AFC West, on paper it might be the Raiders. I mean, that very well could be, and they still do have some things to patch up and stuff like that. But looking at it, they could have the worst quarterback in the division in terms of
By default.
By default, yeah, because okay, Russell's dynamic and can do things, and Herbert has a great arm, and he's Justin Herbert, and then Patrick Mahomes, there's no one like him. But if Derek Carr's the worst, I mean, that's pretty darn good because he could be the best quarterback in a lot of other divisions.
Exactly.
So I mean, like that's in and of itself pretty amazing. I think it's great for them. I mean, obviously for Carr and Davante Adams played together again when they were in college. I think their last year together, Carr led FBS in touchdowns and passing yards, or at least in passing yards, and Davante Adams led FBS in receptions and receiving touchdowns, I believe. So like, they're going to light it up, you would think. And then with Waller and Renfro and Matt Collins, who is a big body target, who I'm looking at already, I'm like,
okay, Matt Collins.
Finally, they're having that Andre Holmes piece that they had really been missing for a long time. Not that Andre Holmes was like a world beater, but he was big enough to win you some matchups just because of his size. Regarding what you said, Derek, about this being the biggest trade in Raiders history, definitely when it comes to the player acquisition, it is. I still think the Mac trade, and I know you were talking about acquisition, but the Mac trade, I mean, the Mac trade is also huge. What's amazing to me is that the two biggest trades in Raider history, both those players are now going to play in the AFC West against each other. And the guy that the Raiders drafted, Khalil Mack, is now with a rival with the Chargers, and they make this huge swing and get Davante Adams. So pretty much Raider fans are like, wow, we made two massive trades in the last 5.5 years, and we're going to see, which one I guess is better. I don't know. I mean, Mac is aging, of course, but that doesn't mean he's not a great player. Like, he's with Joey Bosa. That's going to be hell to deal with, not just for the Raiders. It's going to be hell for the Broncos. It's going to be awful for the Chiefs. But this is a big deal. The Raiders' other acquisitions, Rocky Sin, I think is a great guy to pick up. As much as I like Yannick Ngakoue and his pass rushing ability, he just doesn't offer enough in other aspects of the game, and he's not versatile enough to play the outside linebacker position like Chandler Jones is. So I get it. But if they pick up a guy like a Dante Hightower or something like that, which I would love, then I'm like, okay, we got Alabama middle linebacker, we have Anthony Averett with Alabama. I like all that stuff. But there's still some things they need to shore up. But I totally agree with you. This kind of move signals to me. It's like they think the new regime of McDaniels and Ziegler, they think that they have a window. And obviously Mark Davis believes it too, that there is a window there to really compete for an AFC championship. And I think they looked at last year and probably went, this team, through all the bull crap they went through and through the deficiencies they had on the roster because of said bull crap and bad personnel decisions by the last regime, lost to the second place team in the league. They lost in the playoffs to the Cincinnati Bengals in a close game. So they probably think they're right there. Regarding the rest of the AFC West, I mean, how many more moves can everybody make? I mean, think about it. The money is being spent, the trades are being made, and it's like.
But there's still a lot of big names out there, and I think that the one team that hasn't made a lot of moves is the Kansas City Chiefs.
They haven't.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs haven't, and they have some players that they need to retain themselves. They're just going to be dominant. because of Andy Reid's a great coach and play designer, and he knows what he's doing, and they have the best quarterback in the NFL. I mean, I know Rodgers is like the Terminator, but Patrick Mahomes he's just so dynamic. But this AFC West is insane. I think one of the really cool things about the AFC West this year is they get to play the NFC West, which is kind of funny regarding the Russell Wilson thing. He leaves the NFC West and he's right back in it. And so instantly I thought of Godfather 3, it pulls me back in, and that's what's going on with
that's what I tweeted today. As soon as this Davante Adams trade happened. You escaped the Raiders. Good Lord, they give me every reason to go back to them. I'm not a Raiders fan anymore, everybody. Relax.
Did you tweet that? That's great.
Yeah. I mean, good Lord. I was, I'm not happy to admit this, but I was, just chilling today, watching the NCAA games, scrolling through. I hate that I do this, and I've mentioned this on the podcast. I hate that I'm so addicted to now, like, what else is going on? What news do we have? I'm constantly looking on Twitter all the time. I'm expecting, come on. And I'm expecting Deshaun Watson news, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Davante Adams traded to the Raiders? And I think, like, at first everybody's like, this is fake. And it's this was like a dream for most Raider fans, and now it's coming to fruition. And I'm with you, Alon. The Khalil Mack trade was big in the sense that it was trying to rebuild something, and that you can look back on now as somewhat of a failure because John Gruden is not here to see those players all the way through with their careers. Obviously they got Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Abram and Cleveland Farrell, but two of those three guys haven't really panned out very well.
No, and Jacobs has been good, but the other two are
yeah, exactly. And Cleveland Farrell may not even be on the team going forward. But yeah, man, I think this is a huge move. I'm shocked that it happened, and this is for all the Raider fans that have been dogging Derek Carr in the past. Watch what he does now when he's got this guy with him. He's going to have him. He's going to have Hunter Renfrow, already a good slot guy. Brian Edwards, Darren Waller, arguably one of the best tight ends in football. Still got Kenyon Drake. They just signed Amir Abdullah, so they got some pass catching running backs. They also they signed Brandon Bolden. Yeah. So got a lot of running backs on the team. I'm not sure all of them will make it, but the Raiders are making moves, and God, this is one of the bigger moves I've ever seen them make. And it's crazy to me that Davante Adams. So the rumors are, or the reports are, that he was going to be offered the same contract by the Green Bay Packers. So they weren't playing hardball with him. They were going to give him the deal. And in the end, Davante just wanted to go. He just wanted to change his scenery. And now, the whole flip side of this argument now is Raider fans are, jubilant in hearing this news. And then you think of the stink that Aaron Rodgers has put up for the last 2 years. And he said he doesn't want to go through a rebuild. And it's funny that, he wants to keep winning in his career, but he took that large contract that he disputed was accurate by Ian Rappaport. And it was accurate. Not the same amounts of figures and everything, but he is making a shit ton of money. So it does make it hard for other pieces to be placed. But now this could open the door for, we'll see if Odell Beckham goes back to the Rams, but he's got a torn ACL and will miss most of the season. Jarvis Landry's out there. Julio Jones is out there. So now Aaron Rodgers can pick, he could probably make demands and say, I want this guy, I want that guy. But you got to believe that in order for him to come back to Green Bay, he didn't want this to happen. Like, he didn't want Davante Adams to go. And I think at the end of the day, it's just a matter of, well, Aaron, Davante wants to go. And he's like, well, there's nothing I could do about that. So it's weird to me that Aaron Rodgers put up so much of a stink and, held us in the dark for so long. And now he got his way. He got his contract. And now his team is suffering because they cut Zadarius Smith. Theoretically could get him back now, but I don't know if he wants to go back there. So you make these, you do this because you want to win a championship, but the team is not going to be as good without Davante Adams.
No, they're not going to be as good. Aaron Rodgers obviously gets his deal. There were reports saying that he had known in the last few days that this looked like it was going to happen, but obviously he didn't want it to happen. I think him coming back, he was like, okay, I'll have Davante, have Equimania St. Brown, have the boys back together, kind of make another run at it. but yeah, I mean, they're losing Zadarius Smith, who was a big piece for them, who's a really good player, and yeah, they can retain him. But I mean, that's so tough to retain players once you've missed that window in season to extend them. I don't know. For the Packers, it's like if you go out and get one of these guys, you probably get Julio Jones on the cheap.
Real cheap.
Yeah, relatively speaking, real cheap. And
because he didn't look good last year.
He did
and
it. And
sorry, don't mean to cut you off, but if you're Julio Jones, I would rather go. I mean, you could play with, Aaron Rodgers. That sounds, great, and that'd be awesome. Aaron, if this was 3 or 4 years ago, I would say like this is going to be lethal. Aaron Rodgers and Julio Jones. But I don't know if he's that guy anymore. If I'm Julio Jones, well, if you're Julio Jones, you want the best deal. But what would possibly make more sense football wise is if Julio Jones went to the 49ers and wasn't
just
the main
gonna say.
focus. Yeah.
Yep.
And wasn't the main focus on the offense. He knows Kyle Shanahan. He would be, obviously kind of the main threat, but they got Debo and they got Brandon Ayuk. Maybe he wouldn't be the main threat anymore. But yeah, I don't know what the Green Bay Packers do. Sorry to cut you off there, Alon. I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
No, that's fine. I was going to say the same thing. I mean, you could go Julio for cheap, but like, does Julio want to play outside in the cold, like half the season out there? Like, I don't know. And I was going to say Julio Jones is better off going to two NFC West teams, either San Francisco or signing a super cheap deal with the Rams and trying to chase a ring.
Oh boy.
Which would be kind of insane, but I mean that could
happen. At this point, yeah.
Because Odell, who knows what's going to happen with Odell? I think the best replacement out of the three big guys, Jones, OBJ, or Landry, is obviously Jarvis Landry. Mm-hmm. But the problem with Landry is like, is that going to click? Is that going to click well? We've seen Landry play well, and then kind of, I mean, he's been in some not ideal situations.
Yeah,
and this would be the best quarterback he's ever played with by far. I don't know. Like, there's just it's a huge hole. It's a big hole for Green Bay to fill. They already have a tough time attracting free agents as it is, just historically. It's not what they do. Regarding the Raiders, real quick, I mean, the first thing I thought of when I saw the Davante Adams news, I was like, man, I hope this works a lot better than the last time the Raiders got a Pro Bowl receiver who used to be a Green Bay Packer. And you know who I'm talking about.
That used to be a Green Bay Packer?
Yeah. Mr. Javon Walker.
I mean, at first I thought you were going Antonio Brown, and I was going to say Davante Adams isn't freezing his feet or having problems with the helmet. Javon Walker. God, that was one of the worst trades of all time.
It was terrible.
No, he was a free agent.
He was a free agent, but he had that cup of coffee in Denver, and then he came to Oakland, and it was just like, this is not the guy that was playing with Brett Favre. That's for the 3-time Pro Bowler. But
the story. Hold on, real quick. You know the story what happened with Javon Walker at training camp, right?
No.
He told Al Davis, walks in one day and he goes, "I can't play anymore. I'm sorry, I'm stealing money from you. I can't play anymore." And I was like, "Oh, stop it! I don't want to hear it. You're a great player, Javon. Get back on the field." And he was like, "Okay." And I want to say Javon Walker played one season, one of the worst free agent signings of all time.
It was awful, but that was Al Davis for sure. You still
got
the
later years.
The later years, but it's a huge hole for Green Bay to fill. I think, in a way, like, hey, Rodgers got his money, but I think it really hamstrings the team when you play these kinds of games with the organization. I'm not saying if Rodgers wasn't so hot and cold with them that they would have retained Davante Adams, but I am saying from an organizational standpoint, it sure as hell does not help you prepare when your face of your franchise is like, well, I don't know if I want to come back. I don't know if maybe I want to get traded. Maybe I don't want, maybe I'll host Jeopardy. Like, it's just, that's got to be tough. If you're a wide receiver, like, okay, you go, I want to play with Aaron Rodgers, but at the same time, you're like, do I want to be in this organization where, like, this is how it operates? I don't know. I mean, some guys probably do, and some guys are probably like Davante Adams is like, I kind of want to change the scenery. I don't think I want to play up here in the cold anymore.
And what better place to play than with his college teammate that they've always talked about, reuniting. It's always been there.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that Derek Carr has a best friend, and that best friend, or one of the best friends, is Davante Adams. Like, it's just, he's best friends with Khalil Mack and Davante Adams. Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Those are some good best friends to have.
This move, I think, makes up for trading away Amari Cooper. This move makes up for the debacle with Antonio Brown. Not going to say that Chandler Jones is a better player than Khalil Mack, but it's a pretty good move to get him as well. The Raiders are going in great places. And I'm so damn conflicted. But
When was the
yeah,
last time the Raiders had bookend on the pass rush? Alden Smith for 10 games with Khalil
yeah,
Mack.
Khalil Mack, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they still haven't gone their booking because I don't think Max Crosby is playing outside linebacker.
he's not. He's not. So they're
So
going to
look
need.
out for Kyle Van Noy, I keep saying.
What you keep saying, and if they get him and Dante Hightower, I'll be like, okay, when did the New
That'd be
England
tough.
Patriots move to Las Vegas here? But
Would you rather have Dante Hightower? I mean, Dante Hightower would be a great player, but that would cost you a pretty penny. Would you rather just have Denzel Perryman in the middle again with KJ Wright?
I don't mind that. It's just I don't know how much. So the nice thing is if they play, and I know Steven in a few podcasts ago was saying, it's an illusion of complexity. I guess that's what Patrick
Yes.
Graham word.
Illusion of complexity.
And yes, it is. They're going to play multiple. They're going to play more nickel. I get that. And when you have more linebackers on the field, like a lot of people think, oh, you need certain type of linebacker. That is true, but having more linebackers takes stress off if you have big gap eaters on the line. So they could get away with Perriman and KJ Wright, but KJ's at the end, and Perriman is, although a Pro Bowler, limited in what he can do in pass coverage as well as creating turnovers. I think Dante Hightower is just very experienced. I mean, two-time BCS national champion and three-time Super Bowl champion. Has been Pro Bowler. Like, I just think that'd be a good pickup. Now, if someone said, "Who do you rather get, him or Van Noy?" You go with Van Noy. Like, it just makes more sense for what the team already has.
Yeah.
But kind of transitioning here. What the hell does all these moves and trades mean? Like, the NFL is, I don't not want to say turning into baseball or basketball, but like trades are a thing now. Like over the past couple of years, like trades are a thing. And now with what's just happened with Davante Adams regarding the franchise tag, like, is that going to be a new thing where certain players are like, I'm not signing the franchise tag. I will not play. I will make your life a living. I'll make it awful for you as an organization because I don't want to be signed to a franchise tag.
Yeah, I mean, and there's another player I'm waiting to see what happens with him if he actually signs the franchise tag. Cam Robinson, not a lot of people are talking about, the left tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If he signs that deal, then they got to figure out what they're doing with the first overall pick. So it might not be Evan Neal anymore. They may go a different direction, but that's a topic for another day. This is like I said, man, this is the craziest offseason I ever seen before. And I think everything changed when Tom Brady decided to go to the Buccaneers. You saw that quarterbacks didn't want to be held to their team anymore. Not many trades like this have happened in the NFL. And so it all really started as far as trades was with Sean McVay and Les Snead trading for Matthew Stafford. And now we're seeing it a lot now with, three quarterbacks traded or two quarterbacks traded this offseason, big time, Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz, and more to come. And as we change topics here, we are still waiting for Deshaun Watson and where he decides to play. And the latest as of today is that it was down to 4 teams. We all know this by now: the Saints, the Falcons, the Browns, and the Panthers. And early this morning, he told the Cleveland Browns, "I'm not playing for you," so they're out of the mix, which led to a whole nother domino, which we'll get to later. And now it's being reported as of a couple minutes ago that Deshaun Watson has told the Carolina Panthers that he is not going to play for them either. So it's down to 2.
That was the team that he would go to.
I thought that too, and that's got to piss off Jake Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, who has longed for Deshaun Watson for 2 seasons now. So he's going to be in the mix for another quarterback. Just craziness. So now it's down to the Saints and the Falcons. And this day started off with the Saints restructuring a lot of people on their roster. They moved a lot of cap space. Then you had Kyle Pitts tweeting out that things are going to get crazy or scary in Atlanta. And then he had to retract from that, thinking that it was just Casey Hayward's arrival in Atlanta. By the way, you surprised Casey Hayward didn't end up going to the Colts with the Gus Bradley?
So he's a Gus Bradley guy from San
Yeah.
Diego. In a way, but at the same time, it's like, well, okay, yes, actually, I am, because the Colts need a cornerback to replace Rocky Sin. So it
Well,
is.
yeah, they do, but yet they still have Kenny Moore, and
Yep.
they have Xavier. Well, they don't have Xavier Rhodes. They could sign him cheap because he's getting up there in age, but he'd probably come back. I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts are in the mix for Stephon Gilmore, but the Colts also need a quarterback. So the latest is that many people believe that the smart move for Deshaun Watson would be to go to the New Orleans Saints.
I think that's
Only
the
if
safer move too.
I think it's a safer move. They have a great defense. Um, I would just want to know what the trade compensation is, because if this trade includes Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, then it's not as good. It should be just 3 first-round picks and the team stays intact. I don't know how feasible that is, but if the Saints got Deshaun Watson, good Lord. And that makes me wonder if Sean Payton's regretting not sticking around for that, because I'm sure he would have loved to coach him. But if Deshaun Watson goes to the Saints, that's a game changer, and I think that they're one of the best teams in the NFC. On the flip side of the things, the Falcons really wowed him, and he is from Atlanta. I guess he was a ball boy for the Falcons. Has a relationship with Arthur Blank. They're the only team to actually meet with him in person. I guess until the Saints called an emergency meeting last night and got to him. So it's down legitimately to the Falcons and Saints, and some people believe that he would want to play for the Falcons, which would cause another domino with Matt Ryan. And the latest is now that it was supposed to be tomorrow at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock, whatever the time was, that the Falcons. So it was rumored at first that Matt Ryan was going to restructure his contract. Not the case. If Matt Ryan stays, it was supposed to be this way, but the initial plan was on Friday, tomorrow. If Matt Ryan stayed on the roster at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock, I forget what time it is, he would be given $7.5 million. Now they have pushed that back because it sounds like Deshaun Watson will not be making his decision tonight. He's going to take the weekend to figure things out, and most likely we get a decision by him by Monday. But Alon, just crazy how this trade is holding up other teams. The Indianapolis Colts can obviously not get Deshaun Watson. They're in the same division as him with the Texans. So they're looking to get a quarterback. And now that the Cleveland Browns swung and struck out on Deshaun Watson, they have royally pissed off Baker Mayfield. And it's not even a question anymore. We thought with his tweet that he was kind of miffed, and maybe they were trying to find a way to, reconcile things, but that's not the case. It is official. Baker Mayfield wants out of Cleveland. Even though I'm sure they'd be happy to grant that, the Browns are now saying that they're not going to accept the trade terms. You would think automatically that the Colts would want to be in the mix. You think the Seahawks would want to be in the mix for him. Probably the Carolina Panthers would want to be in the mix for him now, given that they are going to strike out on Deshaun Watson. So, and also, if Deshaun Watson ends up going to the Atlanta Falcons, then you got to make a move with Matt Ryan. And I think Matt Ryan makes a ton of sense with Indianapolis. But the Colts don't have a first-round pick. On the same time, we're still waiting for what the fuck the Niners are going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's just crazy to me that, yes, all this crazy stuff has happened, and it's every day. It's March Madness in its own way with NFL free agency, or as we've been calling it on the podcast, free agency fuckery.
Mm-hmm.
You like that?
No, I do. It's good because it's true.
But now this trade of Deshaun Watson will cause so many other dominoes to happen. Jameis Winston, we don't know what's going to happen with him. He's a free agent. He's tore his ACL, but he would be a starting quarterback for any of these teams that don't land another quarterback.
So, yeah, I mean, the Deshaun Watson thing is holding a lot of stuff up. Regarding Baker Mayfield, I think he's like the wild card in this whole thing. I mean, he could definitely stay put outside of Deshaun Watson because he's making his own decision, right? But Baker Mayfield, they have, like you said, royally pissed him off. He was supposed to be their guy. He hasn't always played great for them, but he has played his butt off. He's played hurt. He has just done everything that they could ask and more, and it still hasn't worked out. And he's been through some really bad head coaches. I I think with Indianapolis, right? The Colts need someone. Seattle, their options are you get someone or you draft someone, basically.
Well, they roll with Drew Lock.
Or they roll with Drew Lock, who
Doesn't sound like the actual thing.
That doesn't sound good. And
No.
How long is Pete Carroll going to put up with that?
Well, Pete Carroll on the press conference the other day made it seem like we're not trying to rebuild here. We're trying to win again this season.
Trying to win. So it's like the Drew Lock thing's not happening. And the other thing is with the Niners, what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo? So let's just say Garoppolo's gone. Bye-bye, Jimmy. And Deshaun Watson goes to Atlanta.
Okay.
Is there any way that Kyle Shanahan goes, you know what? Trey's not ready yet. What can I do to get Matt Ryan here for just 2 years?
I mean, he's making a lot of money.
I know Matt Ryan. That's the thing. And Matt Ryan's making a ton of money. I don't know how you'd restructure it. I don't even know how they make the room. They would have to shed cap weight somewhere. I don't think they can. But
Atlanta would be on the hook for some of the money because if they don't trade him by Tuesday, then they got to pay him $7 million.
But outside of that, the obvious fit for Matt Ryan, because Matt Ryan probably doesn't want to go to Carolina, and I wouldn't blame him for that.
I don't know how he would get there too, given the circumstances.
I don't get how he definitely doesn't want to go play for, the Jets are going to sign you. That's not happening. They have Zach Wilson, so obviously besides Indianapolis, what are the fits for him? Seattle? Probably not. Probably no. I mean, he has a good receiver, a couple of good receivers there, but
at this point in his career, I think the best place for Matt Ryan to be would be Indianapolis because he could rely on the running game with Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, he could rely on the running game, and he has a good coaching staff, and it's a similar situation in San Francisco. The problem is that San Francisco already has so much money tied up elsewhere, and I don't know how. Let's just play pretend here. How big of an upgrade is Matt Ryan over Jimmy Garoppolo at this point? It's big. Upgrade. It's big. But is it worth the money that you would have to spend? And is it worth
for the 49ers?
For the 49ers, yeah.
It's not worth it, in my opinion. I think that Matt Ryan is a great quarterback and would probably do great things on the Falcons or the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Niners, I said this the other day, have dug themselves into a hole. It's not necessarily a hole. It's just they made their decision already. They pulled the trigger on Trey Lance. You're not getting Tom Brady. You're not getting Aaron Rodgers. You're not getting Deshaun Watson now. It's not smart to get Matt Ryan and trade more picks for him. Play the guy you have. Play Trey Lance. Get a good backup quarterback. I thought Tyrod Taylor was going to be that guy. But he ends up going to the New York Giants. So, I think the Niners have already made their mind up on a quarterback. It's just a question of whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo is going to stay on the roster because no one wants to take on this, shoulder situation that he can't throw until July.
Is there any way that Matt Ryan goes to the Saints?
No. I don't see any in division trades.
No. Yeah. So it's too much money and it's in division. It's just that's probably why Indianapolis makes the most sense. If he does have to move, he's out of conference. Indianapolis can obviously take on they need a quarterback. They have a team that's built to win. And the fact that they were almost in the playoffs with Carson Wentz with how poorly he played last year, they probably believe that if they got a guy like Matt Ryan, I mean, unfortunately for them, they're not going to be able to get Deshaun Watson, right?
Yeah.
But
no, sorry, I was just checking updates there. We got some crazy games going on in March Madness right now, but we'll talk about that a little later.
We do. Creighton versus San Diego State. That's what I keep looking over at my other monitor.
Who ended up winning in overtime between who was in overtime? Wasn't it Kentucky and I forget actually.
It doesn't matter.
You know this stuff better than me.
I do. I know Gonzaga won. I know Baylor won. The crazy one was Richmond beat Iowa. The Richmond Spiders
saw that
won, and then there's been
St. Peter's beat Kentucky in overtime.
Yes, that's what happened. St. Peter's, the mighty St. Peter's. What are they? Hold on. The St. Peter's Peacocks beat the Kentucky Wildcats. Yeah, that's really embarrassing.
By the way, I was really holding out for Longwood to pull through today.
Longwood, yeah, I wanted St. Peter's Peacocks against Longwood. That would have been good.
And then New Mexico State just beat UConn. Holy shit!
That's not supposed to happen.
But then St. Mary's, good old St. Mary's, just beat Indiana. Holy shit, by 30 points.
Which they're probably all Australian team, like always.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to
And,
football. Like, anyway,
no, I'm sorry. And real quick, we'll make sure we watch the old Gales, San Francisco State against Murray State.
Yep. So I mean,
Oh
there's
no,
some
sorry, not the
USF.
Gales. What the hell am I saying here? The Dons. The Dons, baby.
Pat Olson here on the Dons on the hilltops. Sorry, Alex.
Those were good days when we used to do the Dons basketball games on 95.7 The Game.
Alex Scott will call me and leave me voicemails of him doing Pat Olson's voice about the Hilltops Hoop Hour and
on his way home from work at 11 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah, on his way, he's like, "Are you awake?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm awake. Okay, I'll take a call." No, Alex, I'm just kidding. But yeah, back to the NFL. Like, I don't know, it's just crazy. This Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson goes to Atlanta, he doesn't have Calvin Ridley for a little while. So Calvin Ridley's going to get suspended. Also, like, I don't know, their team is. He'd make them a lot better. But Deshaun Watson could be suspended, even if everything else is fine, right? Because there's women, the lawsuit, the way that worked, whatever. Nothing else comes out, and blah blah blah. Roger Goodell could still be like, "Yeah, you were such a headache that I'm suspending you," because that's what Roger Goodell does.
No, it very well could be that. That's happened in the past where guys weren't convicted of crimes and they still served NFL jail time. So
NFL jail. That's a good term.
I fully expect that. But if you're the Saints and you retain Taysom Hill, I mean, it's not going to be the best quarterback play, but you can roll with him for a couple weeks.
You have to pay him a boatload too.
Yeah, I know. But he restructured his contract as well. I mean, I think the Saints are the best spot for Deshaun Watson. But just real quick here, with Deshaun Watson taking a meeting with the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield, I get the letter he sent to the fans and everything, and you don't know what's going to happen. And if you're the Cleveland Browns, I would assume that this is the best case scenario for you because you really weren't. If you were going to have Baker Mayfield played on a lame duck year, chances are you weren't going to bring him back. So I get the sense that Kevin Stefanski is not a big fan of his, and they want to make a move. So why would you put up a stink immediately? I think you're in a better position to get a better quarterback. If you get Jimmy Garoppolo on the Cleveland Browns, I think they're a pretty good team. I just think it's ridiculous for Baker Mayfield to react this way. It's it may be the fact that they didn't tell him and they told Matt Ryan. Like, you don't see Matt Ryan make it a stink. But I guess it's also was reported that the Cleveland Browns made Baker Mayfield fully aware of this at the combine, that they were going to be in negotiations for Deshaun Watson. So I don't know. This isn't a good look for Baker Mayfield. I do think he ends up getting dealt. And I do think the Cleveland Browns are just fine without him. So if I had to put a guess on all these different quarterbacks for different landing spots, I'd say by Tuesday, we'll see Deshaun Watson go to the Saints. Okay. We'll see Baker Mayfield get traded to the Carolina Panthers because they just can't sit back anymore. They got to do something, and they want to sell tickets. And Baker Mayfield's a, popular, exciting person, so I could see him going to Carolina. I would see then Jimmy Garoppolo being traded to the Cleveland Browns. I could, yep,
yeah.
Maybe like Jimmy for Dearness Johnson straight up, and the Niners have a good running back to go along with Elijah Mitchell. I could see then Matt Ryan being traded for a second-round pick and maybe a player or multiple second-round picks to go to the Colts. And then, you got Drew Lock, but I could see then the Seahawks bringing in Jameis Winston, and he tore his ACL. And you have Drew Lock play the first few weeks of the season until Jameis is ready to go, and then it's Jameis's team.
Yeah, Jameis would be very interesting on the Seahawks. I've thought about that. And Jameis Winston can be a good quarterback. I know that he's been in the NFL for a while now, but I mean, the guy's national champion, has a cannon arm and can do special things. His vision, his vision is not the best. Actually, in college, he did not have good vision. He ended up having to have eye surgery. I don't know if it was LASIK or whatever, but his vision is just not. There's sometimes where you're just like, why are you throwing it there? And it's
Yeah.
because he just doesn't see it sometimes. But he does so much other good stuff that you can look past that. Yeah, I like your scenario. I think all those landing spots make sense. The thing is, if Baker Mayfield goes to Carolina, like, is that his? Is he? Is he
No,
staying
you're
there the
not.
rest of his career? Or
No, I just think that they got. I mean, when you strike out on like David Tepper,
yeah,
uh, has wanted Deshaun Watson for a long time now. That's the guy he wants. He wants to sell tickets. He wants to have an elite quarterback. He settled for Sam Darnold a year ago after the allegations came out with Deshaun Watson. And now Deshaun Watson is telling him, "No, I'm not going to play for you," and that's got to crush him. So what's the next? What's the next move? You can't trade for Matt Ryan. You can't trade for. I mean, do you want Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know if he'd be very good on a Carolina Panthers team. I think Baker Mayfield puts asses in the seats, and he's a dynamic playmaker. I don't know how good they would be with him and Christian McCaffrey. I could see that being a move though, just because the Panthers want something flashy. Um, and it'd be interesting to see if Deshaun Watson does end up choosing the Saints, how the Falcons react with Matt Ryan. Do they want to go back to Matt Ryan at this point? Is it in the best interest of the team for him to just move on and play for a contender while they rebuild and draft somebody? Or the real, things will become a real clusterfuck is if Deshaun Watson picks the Falcons, and then you do have to trade Matt Ryan. But I don't know why. I mean, I get the whole going home thing, but you're not going to be a good team.
no.
I mean, they got Kyle Pitts. They may re-sign Cordell Patterson, but if Deshaun Watson goes to the Saints, they're already good. Plus, you have the appeal of Odell and Jarvis Landry that may want to team up with Michael Thomas, signing for cheap deals. I think that would be huge.
And you have
Um,
Kamara, like, who's
yeah,
just
and he may be suspended too for getting into fights in Vegas.
yeah, and he's as dynamic as Christian McCaffrey is in a lot
Yeah,
of ways. So no, I agree with that. I think wherever Deshaun goes, he definitely wants to have a running back help.
yeah,
Something that they just weren't. I mean, under O'Brien at the Texans, O'Brien just emptied the cupboards there, and that's a different story for a different time. But
yeah.
yeah, no, I think it's interesting. I can't remember an off season where maybe you do, but in my lifetime, I just don't remember an offseason with this many marquee moves. I just don't. Like
No, I don't
all these
either.
starting caliber quarterbacks and some superstars, obviously, and then guys like Davante Adams. Like I just don't remember this ever. And
No, it's nuts.
this might be the way it goes now because teams like the Rams, I mean, ever since Sean McVay has been with the Rams and they've been in LA, like they've taken big swings every year that they've been there. And
Yeah,
Kansas City, they've had Mahomes, they've been the same way. And I think the other teams just go, we need to do this too.
yeah.
And
Me
that's
and
kind of
Steven
what's happening.
were talking about that. That now that the Rams have won a Super Bowl, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of did the same thing with free
Tampa.
agency.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette. Uh, Teams are just going all in. You saw the Cincinnati Bengals didn't make any big moves besides getting Trey Hendrickson, but it could be that easy in the NFL if you just get a good quarterback and some other pieces. You could be right in the Super Bowl the next season. So the Rams have changed things. The Rams have definitely changed things for the NFL. A lot of teams are saying fuck them picks
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
going all in to get the best possible players. And while we transition here, we're talking about the Rams here. A shocking move today. I did not see this coming whatsoever. Allen Robinson, considered to be the best wide receiver in free agency after Davante Adams and Chris Godwin and other guys. Odell, if he's healthy. But it sounds like Allen Robinson is taking Odell's spot as he signed with the Los Angeles Rams on a 3-year contract. And this isn't just a 1-year fill in for Odell thing. He's their wide receiver going forward. So he's going to team up with Cooper Kupp, arguably the greatest, the greatest wide receiver in football right now. I mean, you can make that argument with Davante Adams.
No, it's Cup.
Uh,
It's Cup.
you think so?
Cup he's uncoverable. I don't.
But you can say
Like,
something about Davante Adams. I think Davante Adams it's just different.
it is
It's
different.
yeah.
Davante, I would say, has done it with Aaron Rodgers, which is a step up of Matthew Stafford. There's no doubt about that. Cup is just, yeah. I guess it's a toss up. It's pick your poison.
Yeah.
I think that someone out there might be able to cover Davante Adams. I don't. How do you cover Cooper Kupp? Everybody's tried it. It's impossible.
Well, Eli Apple knew how to do it for a little while, and then things
Eli
shit.
Apple had
Yeah.
the game of his life. That is true. For a half, and
Yeah.
but you're gonna have Allen Robinson opposite of Cooper Kupp, and it's just then they'll get Higbee back, and
Robert Woods,
Robert Woods,
Van Jefferson,
and Jefferson, and Robert Woods
Tutu
is,
Atwell.
Tutu Atwell. Yeah. It's too bad like Dick Stockton doesn't call games on Fox anymore. Even though his team wouldn't be calling a Rams game nowadays, but it's too bad we can't hear him say Tutu Atwell like the way he would say it. But I mean, their wide receiving core and Matt Stafford is just like, I told you all I was good, and everyone knew I was good, and it wasn't just, I remember all the detractors being like, well, you had Calvin Johnson's like. Yeah, he only had Calvin Johnson, and Calvin Johnson has a lot to thank Matt Stafford for being in the Hall of Fame. Like Stafford put a lot of. Hold on, sorry, something just popped up there. Matthew Stafford.
Porn?
What?
You're looking at porn, Alon?
No. It was college basketball. I promise.
All right.
I'm not having a Tubin moment. But Tubin. But. Yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford it totally proved this year that he is an elite quarterback, and he's really good, and he's just going to have more weapons now. And, I mean, shoot, it's going to be tough to see that they don't win another Super Bowl or contend for it. But then they have to deal with Tampa to top of Brady now again, and it's just like things ain't getting any easier in the NFC.
Well, we'll see what moves the Buccaneers make as well, because the only thing they've done so far is get Russell Gage and a few other guys to shore up the offensive line for the Bucs. But Allen Robinson is a different wide receiver than what the Rams are used to. He's a big body guy, more of a red zone target.
High point
has
guy,
not had the best. Let's say that again, sir.
Big high point guy, like he can go up and get the ball.
And obviously he hasn't played with the best quarterbacks in the past, Blake Bortles. Mitch Trubisky. And now he's getting an elite quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and it just makes me wonder how this offense is going to roll now, because I mean he'll be probably the red zone guy, and then you got obviously Robert Woods, and when we don't know when he'll come back, but he tore that ACL in the middle of the season, so they were saying that they were expecting him to come back by training camp, but we'll see about that. And Cooper Kupp obviously does his things. They're going to be explosive again, and it just makes me wonder. Odell has his options now if he wants to finally, go to Green Bay or go to New Orleans to team up with Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers. But in my opinion, they lost out on Von Miller, and I think that's a good move for Von Miller to go to the Buffalo Bills. I still think they're going to add a pass rusher, maybe Zadarius Smith now, but he may cost too much. You may go cheaper with like Dante Fowler or somebody like that. They could get Bobby Wagner now. That's one glaring hole that's always been a part of their defense, is their linebacker play in the middle. Their run defense is not great. But Odell Beckham, he was electric in the Super Bowl, and then he tore his ACL. And you have to think that the best situation for him, considering that he tore his ACL on February 13th, that isn't in the best interest for him to just rehab with the team that he knows already and feel comfortable enough where they're not going to need him every week. Like if Allen Robinson's coming on the team and Robert Woods is coming back and Tutu Atwell's coming back, then they're fine. And then just imagine what more damage they'll cause with Odell, coming back in the playoffs. I think that makes the most sense. If Odell were to go to the Saints or the Packers, it sounds good on paper, but it's not going to happen until later in the season. So I think the best option for Odell is to sign a really cheap deal, and then you got the most explosive wide receiving core of all time in the Rams.
Yeah, it would be the most explosive wide receiving core of all time. There's no question about it. Odell,
5 eligibles, just crazy.
And Matthew Stafford would love that. He's like, wait, you tell me I get to be in the gun like all the time, and I got these 5 guys to throw to? This is amazing. But I feel so bad for Odell, and I know the Super Bowl happened already in February, but I will say this, and I say it all the time, and I try to tell it to everybody I talk to about sports, especially football. I'm like, turf is terrible. There's no reason Odell should have been injured except for turf. Like, that's totally true. I feel really bad for Odell because this is the second time he's had a major injury like this, and it's like, is he going to come back strong again, or is he going to be a shell of what he was this year, which was
Hmm.
pretty darn good when it took him obviously a couple of weeks to acclimate to LA, to the Rams, but I mean he was still really darn good, and he was having a heck of a Super Bowl before he got injured. Um, I don't know where he ends up. I agree with you. I think the smartest move for him would be to stay, rehab in LA, and just bide his time and come back in a system he's comfortable with. You're on a contender again. You're already under contract. You don't need to worry about those things. If you decide you want to go somewhere else, you can make that decision later. I think it would be really, really tough, not just for him, for any player who's coming off a major injury like that, to then go to another team, rehab there, try to learn a system, miss training camp, miss OTAs because you're not physically able to perform, and go through that whole process. So, like you said, going to Green Bay, yeah, it looks good on paper, or maybe linking up with Sean Watson somewhere, yeah, that'd be fun. But I mean, it's a whole new. You're starting over, and
Yeah,
for him as a football player and his production, that probably isn't the best move.
I agree. Interesting move today by the Los Angeles Rams, but not anything new in what they do. We're going to go to an interview now that I did earlier today. JB Long, the voice of the LA Rams, Super Bowl champions, was nice enough to join me. And by the time we recorded this interview, the Allen Robinson news broke. Um, as the play-by-play man and as an employee of the team, he was not able to discuss it in detail until it was official. Funny enough, like an hour after the interview, it became official, so we could have talked about it then. I allude to it a little bit in the interview, but he can't directly discuss it. We talk about Von Miller, leaving the team and what the Rams will do now, and the whole Super Bowl experience and everything. But JB Long, voice of the Rams, was nice enough to join me, and here is the interview with him. All right, joining me now on Just Your Opinion Man is the play-by-play voice of the Los Angeles Rams. You can also listen to him on Pac-12 Network, Westwood One, and Fox for college basketball. It is JB Long. JB, how you doing?
Derek, I'm doing great. I'm glad we're finally in touch. I know we've kind of been professional acquaintances for a while, but this has been a long-awaited opportunity. So I'm glad that it lines up here in the off season.
Well, I appreciate it, and I used to pester you back in the day when you would come on my Pops radio show. So thank you for doing the same to me and coming on this podcast. I know a lot is going on with the Rams right now. Rumors are coming out currently that they just signed Allen Robinson. I know that you can't speak on that directly until it's official by the team, but some other things we could talk about with the Los Angeles Rams official yesterday. They lose Von Miller, who was a big help to you guys winning the Super Bowl. Gave up a second and a third for him. Just real quick, your thoughts on Von Miller leaving LA, and how close do you think it was for him to return back to the Rams?
Well, that deal that he apparently agreed to with the Bills was eye-popping, and I certainly can't blame him for going in that direction. It takes him through the rest of his prime, maybe the rest of his career, and it leaves him with a chance to further fortify his resume with another championship, because we all know the Bills are very much in that category of teams with the window open. So it's unfortunate that Vaughn apparently will not be back here in Los Angeles. I think it was good to him. He was certainly very good to the Rams, and I think teaming with Aaron Donald was a partnership that was championship worthy and allowed them to get through the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl in particular. I think it's going to also be an interesting case study, Derek, because there's been a true, real Aaron Donald effect for pass rushers in recent years, and you haven't had to be in that elite tier of edge rushers to have a lot of success because of the one-on-ones, the opportunities that are created from all the attention that Aaron Donald attracts. Goes back to Dante Fowler, Leonard Floyd cashed in coming over from Chicago. He continues on with the Rams, but Von Miller is the all-time active sacks leader, and he's a future Hall of Famer. And so he was the best that Donald had ever worked with. I don't think anyone would dispute that. But now you go back into a market where we'll see what's left in terms of free agency. This is apparently a good edge class in the draft, though the Rams don't have a ton of early draft capital. And then the existing group in-house, how much can they grow into their roles to benefit from teaming with Aaron Donald and Greg Gaines and others in that pass rush? Right now, it feels like there's a fairly big void opposite Leonard Floyd because of Von Miller and the half season that he had in 2021.
So the Rams are never shy of adding more to their team. Now that they have lost out on Von Miller, would you expect them to try to fill that void opposite Leonard Floyd by getting another premier pass rusher? We just saw today that Zadarius Smith is backing out of the deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Another guy that the Rams know very well and Raheem Morris knows very well is Dante Fowler. Do you expect any big moves for them to get another rusher?
I don't think you can have too many at that position. It's a lot like receiver, and I know you alluded to the news of the day in that regard. I feel the same way about edge rushers. I really do. And so if there is a reasonable, cap-friendly, complementary piece that they can get between now and the draft, I see no reason why they and the other 31 teams, to be quite honest, wouldn't make that a priority, especially given what they just accomplished. And you saw them win games on defense by caving in pockets and bothering opposing quarterbacks. And so I'm not surprised that right now their focus seems to be on enhancing their passing game in year 2 under Matthew Stafford and impacting that of the competition. So without being name specific, yes, I do feel like there is very much a need there going into, let's say, the second wave of free agency, the draft, and the rest of the offseason. That doesn't necessarily, Derek, mean that they need to address it here and now. That would be great. But I think they were a decent pass rush in the first half of last season, and you saw what they were able to get in Von Miller to take it to the next level and make them championship worthy. So not that I'm saying let's just wait to see what happens between now and October of 22, but I don't think they have to overextend themselves to address that need, even though, again, it is a huge loss in Von Miller.
3 other guys that are officially gone from the Rams for this upcoming season: Darius Williams, Johnny Hecker, and Andrew Whitworth. All different in their own ways, but big impacts on the Super Bowl team from a year ago. Just your thoughts on each of these guys, the impact that they had on the Rams, and just how they're going to fill those voids going forward.
Well, I'll start with Johnny Hecker because I'm so glad, so grateful that he got to play this year with Los Angeles and to cap his tenure with a Super Bowl championship. For those who might not know, going back to training camp and the preseason, the Rams brought in Corey Bojorquez to compete with Johnny Hecker as a lower cost punting option. And Bojorquez was great. And then Johnny Hecker got COVID and he missed the last 2 preseason games while Bojorquez was like cue-shotting balls out of bounds inside the 5. And it really looked like it was going to be the end of an era with Johnny Hecker. And it very easily could have been. But he and the Rams made a mutual decision to make it work for this 2021 season. And he was solid, as he always is. Was not his all-pro self from years gone by that I think will someday put him in the Hall of Fame. But sentimentally, that is very much how it should have ended between Hecker and the Rams. And again, I'm really grateful that that's how it played out. Andrew Whitworth will go down as one of the great free agent signings in franchise history. We want to talk about a culture turnaround from a 4-win 2016 to a division-winning, Super Bowl-winning culture now under Sean McVay. Andrew Whitworth, Robert Woods are the 2 that stand out to me. And Whitworth's performance, I think, has remained borderline elite. You could argue he was still one of the best pass protecting left tackles in the game, even at age 40. But the leadership, the poise, the belief that he injected into a franchise that had really labored and was trying to find traction here in Los Angeles can never be overstated. I think he'll always be a great Rams ambassador. And for someone who arrived in Los Angeles thinking his chances of winning anything major in this sport were probably over, for someone who had never won a playoff game, to see him go out with a ring and the Walter Payton Man of the Year badge on his jersey in that Super Bowl, again, just so appropriate. And the stars could not have aligned any better for Andrew and his family than if he had reached up in the cosmos and aligned them himself for January and February of this year. There's one other one you asked me about, Hecker,
Darius
Whitworth,
Williams.
and Darius Williams. And at least with Darius, this is true of Whitworth too, I should say. Joe Noteboom, I think, who they extended, has a chance to be a long-term answer at left tackle for this franchise. And he's played very well in Whitworth's absence. But what Les Snead and his staff do so well in the front office for the Rams is draft a year ahead at least. And I think they've done that in anticipating the free agent departure of Darius Williams. First on D. Will, I think one of the great success stories of my time with the Rams, he was in a college situation where they took away his program. He wound up on the Ravens as an undrafted, got waived. The Rams claimed him. His 2020 season was elite. It was all pro worthy. And his pick six in the playoff, the wild card win at Seattle, was one of the highlights of that season. They brought him back this year on a one-year deal, worked out well for both parties, I think. But whether it's David Long, a few classes ahead, or Robert Rochelle, most recently out of Central Arkansas, corner is also one of those positions where you can't have too many options, but at least the Rams have drafted replacements for Darius going into next season.
So there's one other big free agent out there, and we saw the impact that Odell Beckham had in a limited role with you guys a season ago, and obviously the 2 catches in the Super Bowl were big, and then unfortunately he tore his ACL. And given the reported news today, it's not official yet, but if the Rams were to sign another big-name wide receiver, what do you think that means for Odell Beckham? Because I would assume that given the injury, you could sign him back relatively cheaper than what he would get if he were healthy. And you have Robert Woods coming back. You have Tutu Atwell coming back. You guys would be okay for the most part during the season. Knowing how Les Snead can, manipulate the cap and everything, would you expect, despite rumors of another wide receiver joining the Rams, that Odell could come back to LA?
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, no matter who else they layer in. It depends, of course, on Odell's preferences, his health, his timeline from another ACL recovery, where he wants to live, whether or not he wants to go learn another system while he's rehabbing. I mean, I think it's easy, at least it was going into this offseason, to understand why the injury actually made it more likely that he comes back with Los Angeles, work with the medical staff, stay with the same docs, stay in the same system. And that way, when he is fully ready to go physically and he's got that green light, boom, he can step right in and make an impact, as he certainly did in the Rams Super Bowl run. I don't know what those specifics are. I don't know what the market for Odell looks like. And maybe the 32 teams that would be interested don't either yet. And from a medical standpoint, though certainly the Rams would, I think, have an information advantage there. But yeah, I think last year's run for the Rams was a prime example of you cannot have too many capable weapons at that position, because what Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay and Cooper Kupp did on that game-winning Super Bowl drive, and really throughout that final contest after Odell went down, was striking, was staggering, was improbable, because they were throwing to the tight ends that you would probably have as TE4 and TE5 coming out of training camp. And Ben Skoranek, a rookie 7th rounder at receiver who is drafted as a special teams target and a gunner. Not a lot of high-level track records there in terms of the skill positions. And it shows you how dependent they were, I think, on OBJ as a complement to Cooper Kupp in January and February of last year. They don't want to find themselves in that position again. But with Robert Woods and Odell coming off of ACLs, I think the more options, the better. And if that means that there isn't room ultimately for Odell, or if he gets a better offer, so be it. I think that'll mean good things for him. But if the Rams still are his best option, I very much think Sean McVay in Los Angeles would be ready, willing, and able to receive him when he does get the medical green light.
A guy that we definitely know is going to be back with the Los Angeles Rams next season is Matthew Stafford, and he had a roller coaster of a season, starting from the big blockbuster trade, then the hot start that you guys got off to, then the 3-game slump and the 17 interceptions, and then in the playoffs, he's fantastic and he wins the Super Bowl. If you had to describe Matthew Stafford's first season with the Los Angeles Rams, what's one word you would describe it with?
Well, roller coaster was a good one. I might steal that one from you, but I think an evolution, or maybe a journey, because I do think there was an acclimation process, and I don't just mean playbook system, working with McVay, timing and rhythm with with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee. All those things are true. But I think the personnel around him continued to evolve and to change and to rotate as Matthew Stafford also acclimated to what does it mean to be the quarterback of a team that's favored in most of its games, of a franchise that now has championship expectations. What does it mean to quarterback a team that by the end of the year had one of, if not the best defenses and special teams units? I know this is kind of cliche, kind of stereotypical, kind of leaning on narratives, but let's face it, for a dozen years, he was in a lot of fourth quarter come from behind, go for broke situations. It's me or no one. And that was not what the reality was for him or the Rams, even through their playoff run. They blew out Arizona. He was a game manager, and I mean that in the most complimentary way in the wild card against the Cardinals. They were up 24 at Tampa Bay against Tom Brady and the Bucks. 3 fumbles by his skill position players, and he doesn't need those heroics in that fourth quarter. Obviously, San Francisco, a bit of a different story. A couple of game-winning field goal drives there, and ultimately what I like to call the sunset drive in Los Angeles in Super Bowl 56. But all that to say, it's a long-winded way of saying that I think by the end of the year, he had grown out of whatever paradigm he had coming out of his Detroit Lions days and was a more complete Sean McVay Los Angeles Rams quarterback. And I think that bodes well for his second season in Los Angeles, no matter who's around him.
And you mentioned the sunset drive with the Super Bowl a month ago. Just talk about a little bit about you and just go back to a month ago. Everybody, a play-by-play man's dream is to call the Super Bowl. Just what was that experience like for you, in SoFi Stadium, calling the Rams victory over the Cincinnati Bengals in Super Bowl 56?
Oh, surreal, which is not surprising. And I'm just so happy and grateful that so many individuals who contributed to that, not just this year, but over the last 6 years that I've been a part of the organization, were rewarded. And Derek, I think since coming back to the Southland in 2016, this LA Super Bowl has kind of been the North Star of the organization. I don't think many vision casting meetings or even roster transactions took place without the thought of this opportunity is coming. How can we put ourselves in the best position possible to capitalize? Now, so many other things had to happen, including losing to the San Francisco 49ers in the Week 18 finale to set this course and to set it all in motion. The Rams aren't hosting that NFC Championship game if they don't let the Niners in the playoff field, and San Francisco goes and takes out Dallas and Green Bay to save the Rams a trip to Lambeau. So I think the way that it culminated with wins over the rival 49ers and then the Cincinnati Bengals, both at SoFi Stadium, both with Aaron Donald making the decisive play on defense to cement his legacy. It's storybook stuff. It's so good that not even a script could have done it justice in advance. Only the way it was authored and transpired and played out makes sense in retrospect. And from Matthew Stafford finding Cooper Kupp to cap his Triple Crown season with a game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, to Donald pointing to his ring finger, knowing that he really is the GOAT now, was just a true joy to be along for the ride and to document and to celebrate with them. I mean, that parade day, seeing them let their guard down and letting their joy shine through, no matter what happens next for McVay and for Donald. And as we found out, Von Miller and Cooper Kupp, that one's never going away.
Real quick, I know you mentioned McVay and Aaron Donald. What did you make of the rumors that they were going to step away from the team after they won the Super Bowl?
Well, from my experience with both of those men, they are so supremely talented, motivated, diligent, that the world really is their oyster. And whatever they want to do next, whenever they want to do it, they've more than earned it. And I think there will rightly be plenty of suitors for their talent and their services. That being said, I was skeptical that was the last dance, so to speak, only because of how passionate they are and how much they are still very much in their prime. And there's relationships here, right? Like Sean McVay walking away from Matthew Stafford after one season was tough to reconcile. Aaron Donald as a 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, settling for just one Lombardi trophy would be tough to stomach, though I could certainly understand why he might have other priorities. But those are two of the hardest working, most football obsessed people that I have ever crossed paths with. So knowing how much more runway they have in their primes in their respective professions, could I see them pursuing other things? Absolutely. And they'll be great at it when they do. I just hope it's not in 2020. And it would make more sense for me if those things are still another season or two off.
You're kind enough to make some time for us today. I'll get you out of here with a couple more questions. Just real quick about you. You've been doing play-by-play for the LA Rams for a few seasons now. How did you get to this point? Just a little bit about your background in broadcasting and how you've gotten now to be the voice of an NFL team.
The Cliff's Notes version is I was a prep athlete who maxed out in high school and chose to go to Notre Dame to get on with the next season of my life, but still wanted the adrenaline rush of athletics. So while I was, pursuing a finance degree and was on an investment banking track, I got into student radio, student broadcasting, just as an extracurricular, as a hobby. And it turned out to be so much fun that by the time I got to my final finance interviews senior year, they said, "Who are you kidding? You don't want this. Go do the other thing." So I took that advice and I did. And for almost 2 decades, it's been the best decision that I've ever made. I figured out, though, kind of on the job, on the fly, because I didn't really hone my craft as a student, though I did have a good bit of extracurricular experience. I was not formally trained. So I had to do a couple of local news stops in Rock Island, Illinois, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Tampa Bay, Florida, and then eventually had a chance to come home to California when the Pac-12 network launched in 2012. And then unbeknownst to me, with the Rams moving to Los Angeles in 2016, it presented a life-changing opportunity for me, for Maurice Jones-Drew, and for a lot of other people throughout the organization. And it's just been a blessing and a privilege to be a part of their relaunch here in Los Angeles.
Well, thank you, JB, for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Just real quick to get you out of here. You also do college basketball for Pac-12 Network. Who you taking in March Madness? Who you got in your bracket?
It's hard for me to see it not come down to Gonzaga and Arizona. Now, there's a chance that one of them doesn't make it that far. There's a very good chance that they both don't make it that far. But I do think they are the two best teams that I've seen in college basketball this year. And the fact that they have, a coaching tree connection is pretty cool. I think the balance of power in college basketball has been tilted to the West this season in a way that I haven't seen sometimes. So I would like to see a Pac-12 program capitalize on that. I think Arizona has the most margin for error as the regular season and tournament champion. So if it's not the Zags, bear down. Give me Arizona. And I'm not saying that because it's my wife's alma mater, though. She would appreciate it.
Well, we'll see if that happens. JB, thank you so much for making time today.
Good to connect with you, Derek. Have a good rest of your show.
Thank you. Very nice of JB Long to join us there. And Rams making moves, and we'll see what happens if they re-sign Odell Beckham. Just real quick here, Alon. Other moves that have happened today. Fletcher Cox released by the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a couple days ago, but or was that today? I'm losing track of all the craziness with rumors and everything.
Real quick,
but actually, yes. Sorry. Oh, I think I lost Alon there for a little bit. But Fletcher Cox, officially, there were some trade rumors about him before, but officially released today. But it's a rumor that he'd come back on a 1-year deal. And some other guys, Austin Hooper, I saw was released by the Cleveland Browns a couple days ago. I think that could be a guy that the 49ers go after. And Julio Jones was released yesterday as well. Another guy I could see the 49ers going after. We talked about him earlier, but just a lot of more free agents. A lot of guys that are maybe past their prime, but still a lot of big names out there, and things are just going to get more crazy as the days go on.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
No, you're all good.
Okay. Can you sec on my end real quick, but the last thing you said.
Say again, Alon? So sorry. I got you now. Just just a lot of free agency moves. Things get crazier in the next couple of days here with how we have lost Alon. Well, we'll see if we get Alon back. But a lot of craziness with free agency moves and whatnot. So we'll see what happens here, and we'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson. Real quick, I'll end with this. If Alon comes back, cool, but thanks to him for joining me on such short notice and everything. And thanks to Alon. Hopefully he gets back on here and doesn't let me keep tap dancing like this, but either way, we'll be fine. Warriors snapped their losing streak. They were 4-0 with Jackie Moon. Alon's back. What's going on there, man? Oh, still coming in fuzzy.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my internet today. It's really.
Oh,
Still.
You're all good.
See
man.
you, but it's breaking up. Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. We'll wrap this up. I was just talking about the Warriors last night. They were 4-0 with Jackie Moon coming on the court and helping out Klay Thompson. They have their first loss since then. And obviously things don't help when Steph Curry gets hurt. And I don't think it was a dirty play by any means, but Marcus Smart, or as the Boston fans call him, Marcus Smart, went after Steph Curry on a dive for the basketball and hurt his foot. So now it sounds like it's a 3-week process for Steph Curry to come back, and we'll see him again in the playoffs. But this doesn't bode well for seeding, and it just sucks right when they get Draymond back. They played 11 minutes together, the old three wise men, not James Wiseman, but the three wise men, Steph Curry, James Wise, or not James Wiseman, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green just played 11 minutes together. And now it's going to take some time for them to get back on the court together. We'll see what happens with Steph and his recovery. I don't know how many games they'll win without him. Hopefully, Klay Thompson can hold things down offensively, and Jordan Poole and Draymond can, be the fire to, kind of motivate them and everything, and be the team leader, give them the defense that they need. Hopefully, Andre comes back sooner now, but we could see the Warriors tumble a little bit here. Could be a 3rd seed, could be a 4th seed. But all in all, I like the Warriors going forward. We'll see what damage they could do in the playoffs, but it just sucks that Steph Curry is going to be gone for so long now, 3 weeks, and we'll see what happens when he comes back. But it kind of sucks with how good the Warriors are playing. I've lost Alon again, but we'll wrap things up now. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Such a big, crazy day with the Davante Adams news. Holy shit. Can't believe he's a Raider. We'll see what else happens the next couple of days here. Gave you 3 podcasts in a row, so we're going to take some time off here, 3 days off. And me and Steven will be back on Tuesday to recap everything. By then, we expect Deshaun Watson to be traded. We'll see if Jimmy Garoppolo is traded by then. That may hold things up. But thanks to Alon for joining me. Sorry his connection crapped out there at the end, but always thankful for him being able to come on with me. I really appreciate it. So thank you, Alon. And thank all of you for listening and watching. And in the words of Stephen Langford, as we always say, it's just our opinion, man.